Hello. I've been busy today. Have you? It is time for Granny Shares the Bible, and I'm going to share from Exodus chapter 10, and I'm going to start with verse 16. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste, and he said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me this death only. What was happening? The locusts were eating up everything, covering everything. They rested in all the coast of Egypt. They were very grievous. Before them there was no such locust as they, for they covered the face of the whole earth so that the land was darkened, and they did eat every herb of the land, and all the fruit of the trees which the hill had left, and there remained not any green thing in the trees or in the herbs of the field through all the land of Egypt. So everything, every green thing was eaten up, and they were still crawling and looking for stuff to eat. Oh my, talk about pestilence. And so Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron in haste and began confessing, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive, I pray thee, my sin only this once, and entreat the Lord your God that he may take away from me this death only. So Moses says, and he went out from Pharaoh and entreated the Lord. Lord, please take these locusts away from the Egyptians. It's horrible. I mean, Moses could see it was horrible. I'm sure he didn't enjoy them suffering like that, but the fact is they'd been making the children of Israel suffer, and they'd been using their labor for free. I mean, they had really treated the children of Israel horribly, and now God is allowing some things to come back on them, and it's horrible. It's worse than anything that you can imagine for locusts to just cover the whole land of Egypt. And the Lord turned a mighty strong west wind, which took away the locust and cast them into the Red Sea. There remained not one locust in all the coast of Egypt. So, how could Pharaoh not understand that this was the Lord God Almighty? How could he not understand it? I mean, never any of his gods had ever done anything like any of this. Sure, they were just false gods. And even if the devil could hatch up something to make them believe, nothing like this. That's why when people start saying that man made the hurricanes and things like that, and I heard that weather woman say it'd have to be 10,000 nuclear bombs to have the energy of one hurricane. We don't have that. We can't do that. We can't. When God begins to work, let me tell you, it's something that man can't even imagine doing, can't do. The greatest things we've ever done won't approach unto what God can do. And so Pharaoh he saw that the locusts were swept away, gone. And instead of going, what a mighty God, what a wonderful God, what a great God, oh no. But you know why he couldn't do it? Listen to what's happening now. Verse 20. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. Now, have we run into that yet? Let's look back. Let's look back and see, does it say yet that the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he wouldn't let them go? Let me look. Okay, back farther. And it says, and the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. But then the Lord said to Moses, go in unto Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants. So he's going into him and he's telling him about the locusts coming. So that's when God has begun to harden Pharaoh's heart. And it was after it really happened at the time that the people began to look around and say, Pharaoh, let him go. Let him go. Look, don't you know that Egypt is destroyed? But the problem was Pharaoh couldn't now, because God was hardening his heart. And that's what this says right here in verse 20. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart so that he would not let the children of Israel go. And verse 21, and the Lord said unto Moses, here comes something else. Stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. Okay, what causes us to have light? The sun shining, right? And at night there's the moon and the stars. So we are lightened even in the darkness of night. We are given some light. But when God told Moses to stretch out his hand toward heaven, he said that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. So the moon was not shining, the stars were not shining, and the sun was not shining. Nothing. They were feeling darkness. And Moses stretched forth his hand toward heaven, and there was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Thick darkness. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. Now, in our dwellings, when it gets dark, we turn the lights on. We have electricity. Before that, they had lamps with lamp oil, and they would turn the light on. Before that, they had candles. And probably these had lamps with oil. But it doesn't seem like it penetrated. Anything they could do would penetrate that thick darkness. You ever heard the phrase thick darkness? Me, I haven't. There was a thick darkness that if you lit a candle and held it up in front of your face, you might not even see it. Thick darkness. There was a thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They saw not one another, neither rose any from his place for 3 days. They just lay in the bed, I imagine, and hope for the day. Hope that it would finally go away, this darkness. But listen, but all the children of Israel had light in their dwellings. And Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, okay, let's find out. What do you think happened? How did he do this? Moses and Aaron were in the land of Goshen, or wherever the children of Israel were that were right close to Pharaoh, because they had to be there. They were his servants. They were his slaves. So even though they had their dwellings in the land of Goshen, wherever Pharaoh was, they were there too. So I imagine Moses and Aaron were very close by. But Pharaoh, maybe he got somebody to feel their way along until they came out of that thick darkness into where Moses and Aaron were. I'm telling you what, if I would have been an Egyptian, I think what I would have done is I'd have made me friends of those children of Israel. And I'd have come out of that locust. I'd have come out away from those lice and away from those frogs. I think I would have been hanging around them, wouldn't you? You know, God's going to show that. He's going to show that as time goes on. He's going to show the difference between his people and people that are not his. The biggest thing he's going to do to show the difference is he's going to take us out of here before all these things begin to come upon the earth. The great tribulation that's spoken of in Revelation. He's going he's going to come for us, and we're going to escape that. And they're going to be left here to go through all of that, or to die in it. So I just know that the Lord is showing that he makes a difference. Even in something horrible like a hurricane, he'll make a difference with his people and people that are not his. He'll make a difference. Maybe somebody will suffer something lost, but on the other end, it'll turn out something gained. I mean, God's going to watch over his people, just like he did here. They had light in their dwellings. That thick darkness did not come to them. And so Pharaoh called unto Moses, and I guess they felt along till they could get out there and find him, and then felt their way back into it. And Moses called unto Pharaoh called unto Moses and said, Go ye, serve the Lord. Only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. Now wait a minute. He could have waited until it started getting light again, because it said 3 days. It wasn't just going on indefinitely, although the Egyptians didn't know if it would go on indefinitely. Anyhow, if Pharaoh had to wait till it got light before he could call Moses, he did. He sent for him, I'm sure. And Moses said, He said, only let your flocks and your herds be stayed. Let your little ones also go with you. You can go. All you grown-ups can go. Even all your children can go. But don't take your flocks and herds. In other words, I got to have you on a tether. I got to have something back here that you're going to want to come back for. He knew that. He knew that they were escaping him. And Moses said, Thou must give us also sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice unto the Lord our God. Our cattle also shall go with us. There shall not an hoof be left behind. For thereof must we take to serve the Lord our God. And we know not with what we must serve the Lord until we come thither. Now I want you to listen to Moses. Do you remember how he said he couldn't talk? He's talking, isn't he? He's talking. I mean, Moses, he gets Moses and Aaron to come, but Moses is the one that's talking now. And Moses is not making any deals. He's not making any deals. He's saying, we got to have our cattle too. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me. Wait, I missed 27. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. And Pharaoh said unto him, Get thee from me, take heed to thyself, see my face no more. For in that day thou seest my face, thou shalt die. And Moses said, Thou hast spoken well. I will see thy face again no more. Now I'm going to go on into chapter 11, because it seems that it just stretches on into it. Let's read. And the Lord said unto Moses, Yet will I bring one plague more upon Pharaoh and upon Egypt. Afterwards he will let you go hence. When he shall let you go, he shall surely thrust you out hence altogether. So speak now in the ears of the people, and let every man borrow of his neighbor and every woman of her neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. Moreover, the man Moses was very great in the land of Egypt, in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. So Moses had become great to the Egyptians. God had given favor in the eyes of the Egyptian people. He gave the people favor in their sight. I know they are making friends with them, aren't they? I don't blame them. And I mean, the Egyptians, all the normal people, are beginning to realize these people are blessed and I'm cursed. I'm going to hang around them. And so God did give them favor, and they would borrow jewels of silver and jewels of gold. Now, some people might think that that would it would be bad to borrow something and not pay it back. But God knew they owed them a lot more than jewels. They owed them for years and years and years of labor. Some men had labored for the Egyptians until they had died, their whole lives. So it wasn't a matter of stealing. It was a matter of God-given favor in the eyes of the Egyptians to the people that were living around them, the children of Israel that were living around them. He gave them favor in the sight of the Egyptians, and he even made Moses a very great man in the land of Egypt, and in the sight of Pharaoh's servants, and in the sight of the people. That's what happens sometimes when there's a battle between the Lord and the world and the ways of the world. It causes people to see who God is and see who is God's. And it causes them to see them as what they really are. Pharaoh was supposedly great in the land of Egypt, but Moses came out really being esteemed highly in the eyes of the Egyptians, not Pharaoh. And Moses said, "Thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go out into the midst of Egypt, and all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt, such as there was none like it, nor shall be like it any more. But against any of the children of Israel shall not a dog move his tongue, against man or beast, that you may know how that the Lord doth put a difference between the Egyptians and Israel. And all these thy servants shall come down unto me, and bow down themselves unto me, saying, Get thee out, and all the people that follow thee. And after that I will go out." And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger. Wow! He told Pharaoh what was going to happen. And every time he told Pharaoh what was going to happen, it happened. But God had hardened his heart. He couldn't go. He couldn't do it. He couldn't let the people go. But Moses said, "It's not going to be you that's going to want me to go. It's going to be your people. They're going to want us to go." And the Bible says in verse 8 of 11, in chapter 11 and verse 8, says, "And he went out from Pharaoh in a great anger." Moses was angry because Pharaoh would not let them go, even to them, their firstborn dying. Oh my. And the Lord said unto Moses, "Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that my wonders may be multiplied in the land of Egypt." And Moses and Aaron did all these wonders before Pharaoh. And the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, so that he would not let the children of Israel go out of his land. Even when they said, "Your firstborn's going to die," when the Lord hardens somebody's heart, they can't do it. They won't. Oh, please, Lord, let my heart stay tender to you. Please, let our hearts be tender to you. And don't harden our hearts about anything that you don't want us to do. You don't want us to partake of. Let our hearts not get hardened over it. Let us be willing to be yours and be just what you want us to be. And Lord, people whose heart have been hardened because they just harden it until then you started hardening it. Please, if it's possible, have mercy. Oh my, I better go. I'm about to run out of time. But this is something, isn't it? I will see you tomorrow and we'll finish up what's going on. I think there's some verses in between what's going on and what happens. So we'll see you tomorrow and look at it. God bless you.